Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Arkansas Outdoors Roundup. I've been wanting to make this channel for a while now, and here's why. But first, I need to give you a little bit of a backstory. I moved to Rogers, Arkansas in right around 2000 to take a teaching position at Springdale High School. I'm originally from Little Rock, but I was not new to this area. My grandparents had a small farm out on Highway 62 near Avoca. We used to come up here and hang out with them quite a bit when I was a kid. When I first moved up here, I did a lot of fly fishing on the beaver tailwaters below Beaver Dam. I was really into that. But after a few years, I started to do more hiking, and that led me into the world of backpacking. And boy, did I jump in with both feet. You could say that I traded my fly rod in for a backpack and a tent, and that would be very accurate. My hiking trips helped me develop a strong interest in what was happening in our national forest. Basically, I'd become a tree hugger, as they would say. I eventually joined a local hiking group and met several people whose company I really enjoyed. They were fun to be around. Living in Northwest Arkansas had opened my eyes and made me really appreciate why Arkansas is called the natural state. But over the last 5 years or so, Northwest Arkansas has grown, and I mean by a lot. There are now a great deal of people recreating here, especially around the Bentonville and Fayetteville areas. Mountain biking in particular has blown up here. In fact, this area has become a major hub for that sport. But of course, the main attraction for folks in this area is, and always has been, the Buffalo National River. Beginning in the early spring and all through the summer, the river gets thousands of visitors eager to float and enjoy the scenery. Many others go simply to fish, hike, or camp. It truly is the gem of the state in terms of its natural beauty. I go there quite often. With all the growth in this part of the state, I began to wonder just what sort of impact all this increased pressure would have on these locations. Recreation is a big industry in this state, but there now seems to be something of a shift occurring. I think we are witnessing a rise in the commercialization of our natural places, mostly in areas it hadn't really been found before. In a word, many of these locations are being transformed into what I would call tourist spots. Everywhere land is being purchased and developed in and around these nature areas is done solely for the purpose of making money. While there have always been small concessionaires in popular recreation sites, the sheer increase in the number of these businesses is rather alarming to me. One of my big fears is that soon resorts and hotels may take over these areas and limit access now open to all. These are just some of the considerations that led me to create this channel. Yes, there are many channels that discuss the different aspects of the outdoors life in Arkansas, but I have not come across any that really focus on important news stories pertaining to the Arkansas outdoors. For example, I rarely see stories regarding the commercial development or state and federal laws or changes to environmental rules and land management practices. These stories are only discussed after the fact, almost as an aside. I think these topics are vital and deserve more than a passing mention here and there. To many folks, these topics are not particularly interesting, and I understand that. But for those of us who want to protect and advocate for our state's natural recreational resources, such information is vital and needs to be seen and talked about. That is my goal here. If Arkansas Outdoors news is important to you as well, your input is welcomed here. But that is not the only thing I'll be doing on this channel. In addition to all this, I plan to talk with others who are active in the outdoors community and hear their stories and reactions to things happening around the state. But before I leave, I would like to share with you a few graphics that I think put into perspective some of what I have been talking about. Okay, everybody, I'm going to switch screens now, and I'm going to show you this graphic right here. It talks about the impact, the economic impact of tourism in Arkansas. And here it talks about the total economic impact or spending impact in 2024. Those are the latest stats I was able to find. As you can tell here, it says total visitor spending is or was in 2024, a little over $10 billion. As it notes right there, it was an all time record high. Spending trends, if you go back to 2020, you see that 6 billion was spent in 2020. Fast forward to 24, you see again a little over 10 billion. The graph next to that talks about where the money was spent. Visitors spent 29% on transportation, 29% on food, beverage, 17 on lodging, 13 on retail, excuse me, and 12% on entertainment and recreation. This money in 2024, that of that $10 billion, 594 million went to state tax, and 240 million went to local tax or taxes. The tourism industry supported in 2024 a little over 71,000 jobs. All right. Here it says it had brought in an income of 2.2 billion, no increase from 2023. I'm not exactly sure what they mean by income in this context. Here it says the total visitor spending was 10.3, no increase from 2023 that had 2.2 billion. So I'm not exactly sure what that amount is referring to. So I'll just leave it at there. All right. Next, we have, scroll over, we have the total number of visitors in 2024 was 52 million, a 2.6 increase over 2023. Leisure visitors amounted to 37.5 million. So of that 52 million, 37.5 of them were leisure visitors. And you see a little icon there of someone hiking. I guess that indicates some sort of activity, hiking, boating, just outdoors, general stuff, I guess. I'm not exactly sure. Again, I don't have all of the details and definitions of their categories, but you get the idea, I think. If you look at visitor history in 2020, we had a little over 29 million. And as I mentioned before, in 24, we had right around 52 million. Overnight visitors, 16 million, a slight decrease from 2023. Again, overnight visitors, not exactly sure what they're referring to there. In our welcome centers across the state, we had a little over 1 million people visit the visitor centers across Arkansas. And if you look at the national park site visits, in 2020, we had a little over 3 million. And in 24, we had about 4.5 million. So a nice little bump up from 2020. State park visits went from 6.4 million in 2020 to 7.7 million in 24, a slight decrease from 2023. This graphic is particularly interesting to me because it gives a county by county breakdown in 2024 as to how much was spent in these counties. If you look right up here, it says visitor spending in millions of dollars. So what you see in this column here refers to millions of dollars. All right. The largest visitor spending occurred in Pulaski County, and you see the number right here, 2,192. So if this is in millions and you have 2,192, basically what you have there is a little over $2 billion spent in Pulaski County. All right. Now I went through the chart here, and in second place in visitors spending was in Benton County with 1,218. So in other words, $1.2 billion. In third place, you have to go down to Garland County right here, and you see the total expenditures there at $936.5 million. All right. So Benton County, the county that I live in, has the second highest amount of visitors spending in Arkansas, which is not surprising to me. And, you know, I guess kind of completely expected. So that's an interesting little tidbit. And also dovetails with what I said earlier about how we are seeing more and more businesses and development happening in Arkansas. So these numbers kind of back that up, at least indirectly. And finally, on this particular graphic, it talks about jobs across the state in tourism and job growth. Here you see in 2020, was that 2023? No, I'm sorry, 2024. There was an increase of 2,300 new jobs added to the outdoor economy. And if you look down here, this is interesting. You see the leading regions. If you break it down by regions, the top three are going to be Northwest Arkansas, the Little Rock region, and the West Central region. To kind of put that in perspective, if you were to draw a line basically from Bentonville down to Little Rock, then over to Fort Smith and back up to Bentonville, you would have most of this covered right here. In that area, you would find these numbers of jobs in the outdoor industry. So as you can tell, Northwest Arkansas, 8,316 to Little Rock's 5,368 to West Central's 4,478. So a lot of those jobs of the 71,000 jobs in tourism, in the outdoor economy, a good chunk of those can be found in just three regions right there. Finally, you look at the economic impact. This stat comes from 2023. In 2023, the outdoor economy generated basically 2.5% of the total GDP in the state of Arkansas, surpassing farming, which is interesting. There was a total of 7.3 billion in GDP from the outdoor economy. And in 2023, you had 68,000 jobs. So as I said earlier, we have about 71,000 in 2024. I find it pretty interesting that well, let me put it this way. We have about 3 million people in Arkansas, and we have a total from 2024, a total of 52 million coming to visit Arkansas, and they're spending enormous amounts of money when they come here. That is a good thing, you know, for the economy as such, but it goes back to what I said at the start, that all of this growth in the outdoor economy is a little alarming, because we're not entirely sure what direction this is going in. I think we're starting to see every year more and more of an impact on our natural spaces. And I'm not sure, well, I am sure that that impact is probably not beneficial, at least environmentally speaking. There's a lot happening in the country right now with regard to the environment, both federal legislation and state legislation has been directed at reducing regulations, putting in all sorts of changes that will benefit business, but are not in the best interest of the economy. I'm sorry, not in the best interest of the environment. So all of this stuff taken together is something that needs to be watched. It needs to be discussed, and it needs to be, vetted, and to see what's actually going on, and what things we like and what things we don't like. Too many times, legislatures, both at the federal and the state level, will put together things and pass them without much detail to the public. And that is a dangerous sort of thing. And you see what happens when the public does find out about a lot of these things. There's been a lot of examples in the news. I remember the lithium mine discussion months ago. That lithium mine activity was going to be allowed in South Arkansas, somewhere around uh, the Texarkana area. And there was a lot of pushback on that. I'm not sure how that all played out. I have not followed up on that lately, but I remember there was a large pushback on whether or not to do that. The other thing is a lot of AI data centers are uh, being proposed in different parts in the country. There was one in Arkansas, and they want to put, I think it's a Google data center in East Pulaski County. That has gotten a lot of attention. And also, more recently, within the last week, there was an AI, not a drone manufacturer wanting to build military grade drones at Drake Field in, I guess that's southeast uh, of Fayetteville. So, and a lot of people are really up in arms about that. The city council seems to be wanting to push ahead with this. There have been legislators who, Steve Womack, I think, was one that was mentioned by name, who, are perfectly fine with this, but the community as a whole is not. It's these sorts of stories that we need to keep an eye on. And that is what this channel tries to do or will try to do. It will go through and kind of cherry pick various sorts of news stories that I think are important to our outdoor community, and they need to be discussed and shown. So that's my goal. That's my plan. And I thank you for joining me on this first episode. And I hope you come back and leave your comments so we can have a productive conversation and educate each other on the goings on in the outdoor community. That is all for today, and I will hopefully talk to you next time. Goodbye.